At Aarhus University, we have carried out research and innovation into alternative and sustainable proteins from before it became a buzzword, and we are currently following 3 pathways. One is based on working with the food industry to increase the sustainability of their entire production systems by identifying and refining protein sources and side streams, and to add value to these side streams by innovating high-value protein sources. A second pathway is to develop alternative sources of proteins from blue and green protein sources, and we have especially focused on high-quality protein through biorefinery processes of green biomass, such as grass. The starting point was to develop feed protein concentrate for animals with a sufficiently high quality and composition as to replace soy-based concentrates. We have succeeded at that. For several years, we've also developed processes for further refining the grass protein into white protein for use in food industry as ingredients and other types of protein. The third pathway is even more radical in its idea. Scientists try to develop new sustainable ways to deliver animal-based proteins from cell cultures, both milk and meat. Animal proteins are important and have high value at certain growth stages. We believe this area of research complements the significant focus on plant-based proteins. In its ultimate form, the cell-based approach has the potential to disrupt the livestock industry.
In the project Clean Pro, we are working with the future sustainable animal-based protein production. That means that we sample stem cells from animals and grow them in the laboratory to become meat. In the laboratory, we can stimulate these stem cells to become mature myotubes, and that is actually a muscle cell, which is the basis for meat. The estimate for this kind of production is that it is a more sustainable way to produce animal-based protein because it uses less land and it uses less water. So if you have a sustainable energy resource, then it in the end will be a more environmental friendly production.
At the Department of Food Science at Aarhus University, we have worked with different species of green material that normally are used for feed stuff instead of food. We have extracted protein with different kind of biorefinery methods, and we have actually seen that the process matters when it comes to the quality for different food application.
A new generation of proteins, isolates and concentrates, after careful design of their process conditions to optimize not only their quality and their nutritional and technological functionality, but also their environmental impact. Improvements in productions, greenhouse gas emissions, resource uses are needed. So we need to design foods with optimal nutrition and functionality from side streams, even when we are using less refined sources.
So GFI is a philanthropic NGO, and we're working to accelerate the shift towards a more sustainable, healthy and just European food system, with plant-based and cultivated meat at its core. But producing meat directly from plants or growing the meat that we want from a small sample of animal cells could deliver the food that people love with none of the problems of industrial animal agriculture. So in our vision for the future, you'll be able to eat a real pork sausage made from cultivated cells that hasn't harmed a single animal in the process, that hasn't used nearly as much land, water, or emitted methane as with conventional meat, that doesn't face the same food safety issues. In our vision for the future, you'll have a plethora of plant-based meat options that are affordable, convenient, and that match meat in terms of taste and texture. Let's capitalise on this opportunity. Let's make sure that the research focuses on closing the knowledge and technology gaps and on maximising the potential for these sectors. So at GFI, it's our mission to help accelerate this sector. So we are happy to help in any way we can.
And sustainable diets, it's not just about ecosystems or biodiversity. It is also about having a diet that is adequate nutritionally, it is safe and it is healthy. There are two important aspects when we are working towards finding new sources of protein. And these are that, first of all, the sources should provide a high quantity of protein, but also a high quality of protein to make sure that we supplied all the essential amino acids. Secondly, animal-based foods are not only the main source of protein, but they are also a great source of vitamins and minerals, especially iron. That's why it's so important that we look into the bioavailability of minerals in the sustainable diets. Food processing techniques such as fermentation has shown greatly improvement in the bioavailability of minerals such as iron, calcium, and zinc. Such processing techniques and others should further be investigated on their potential not only to improve the bioavailability of minerals, but also to improve the bioavailability of protein, vitamins, and bioactive compounds.
Europe needs to be more self-sufficient when it comes to food, and if Europe is to meet the Sustainable Development Goals and targets to limit climate change, sustainable protein sources must play a major part. We at Matís believe that insects for human consumption and as feed for animals are promising protein alternatives that can be produced locally. Single-cell proteins from microbes feeding on sugargrass from, for example, forestry leftovers such as woody biomass are also a promising new protein alternative. We are investigating how to optimize production of these protein types both for human and animal food as a part of many ongoing research projects. Further, microalgae are also an excellent alternative protein source but typically expensive to produce. We at Matís are working with an Icelandic company, Vaxa, which is a part of the EIT Food Rising Food Stars. The company has teamed up with a geothermal power plant in Iceland to cut costs and increase resource efficiency. They use in their production of microalgae sustainably produced electricity, excess hot and cold water, and carbon dioxide, all generated from the power plant. It's a very unique and sustainable process of microalgae and microalgae protein. Key barriers that currently prohibit or limit the industrial application of the alternative proteins, such as scalability, production costs, value chain risks, safety, regulations, and consumer acceptability. We need to create understanding on potential business models and explore market opportunities for future-proofed, environmentally friendly value chains based on new and more efficient use of resources. Alternative proteins must have lower environmental footprint compared to traditional protein production in terms of greenhouse gas emissions, water, land, and fuel consumption.
VTT is a visionary partner for research, development, and innovation, helping enterprises and society to put new science and technology into practice. Cellular agriculture harnesses cell organisms like microbes growing in bioreactors to produce food instead of using animals and fields. These organisms can turn various feedstocks, for example, agriculture side streams, into valuable food materials. Food production by cellular agriculture can be divided into two categories: cellular and acellular products. Cellular products mean that we use the whole cell mass as a food ingredient. Examples of cellular products are single-cell protein, like corn, cultured meat, and cultured plant cells. Acellular products mean that cells, for example microbes, are used to produce ingredients that are separated from the cells. Currently, this technology is used to produce food additives such as vitamins and processing aids like cheese rennet. If simplified, we can talk about making food from air. In this case, the carbon source for the microbial growth comes from carbon dioxide, the emission that the whole globe is trying to get rid of. As a comparison, it can be mentioned that corn production is based on a carbon source that is from cereal crops. In addition to carbon source, it's important to consider the energy and water source. The cell-based process can be sustainable only if the inputs needed for the process are sustainably supplied. According to Solar Foods, single-cell protein produced in their CO2-based process uses 250 times less water than soy and even 1,500 times less than beef production. We can also use microbial cell factories to produce natural sweeteners based upon plant proteins. Using this alternative approach to producing sweetener, could we reduce the use and production of sugar with subsequent positive environmental and health impact?
The alternative protein space has garnered a lot of attention in recent years. A convergence of several factors, such as growing population, supply concerns, environmental impact, and rapid urbanization, all these are creating changes in protein demand, which in turn is leading to opportunities for a multitude of alternative protein sources. As demand grows, we see that there are many novel alternative protein sources which have emerged through several new technology developers. Broadly speaking, we divide these alternative protein sources into various categories, such as plant proteins, insects, single-cell protein, algae, and cellular agriculture. Now, undeniably, plant proteins have witnessed the most commercial success, and the momentum behind plant proteins will continue to grow because we are looking to diversify the plant protein sources, really thinking about moving beyond soy, like lupin, chickpeas, canola, or peas, for example. Now, despite this growth, what's important to note here is that there are some really unmet needs in the plant protein space. These include, for example, improving the nutritional content and perfecting the right texture and mouthfeel when you're talking about plant-based meat alternatives. Now, if you're looking at those insect protein space, especially for food applications, they're still lagging behind when compared to feed applications. Scaling production capacity, that's still a challenge, and the developers are trying to address this through automation. The single-cell protein space really covers, again, typically dried cells of microbes. It could be derived from bacteria or fungi, and again, it could be applicable for both feed and food applications. Cellular agriculture is an emerging and I would say one of the fastest growing in terms of the other alternative protein categories. The way we categorize it is it includes both cell-based meat as well as fermentation-derived proteins.